So my first time doing like a memorial for an artist that has died, Eddie Van Halen was very important to my life early on. I started playing guitar in 1988. I was 9 years old. I saw Van Halen with my dad in 1991 at Starwood Amphitheater outside Nashville. Eddie Van Halen at the time was a guitar god. I mean, he continued being a guitar god afterwards. In the 80s, when hair metal was kind of like ruling the airwaves, Eddie was a virtuoso, but different from the guys like Yngwie Malmsteen and Eric Johnson. People who were good but played very guitar-centric rock, Joe Satriani, guys like that. Eddie Van Halen did it within the realm of pop music. So Van Halen has an endless stream of huge hits. They're one of the biggest rock bands of all time. They started in the 70s. Eddie kind of picked up on what Jimi Hendrix was doing and had a way of playing that really nobody had ever experienced before, especially with the stuff like two-hand tapping. That became very commonplace in the 80s, but a lot of that was based on what Eddie taught everybody how to do through his art and music. Eruption, one of the greatest guitar solos of all time on Van Halen's debut album. Seeing him do it live in Starwood at, I guess I was 11 or 12 years old. Mind-blowing. It's one of the few things I still remember from that concert. I saw Pearl Jam at Barclays Center in 2013. Mike McCready played Eruption. If you're a guitar player, there's kind of a jockiness about it if you focus just on the instrument itself. With shredding, it's like that way for any instrument. Every instrument has like players that are shredders or virtuosos that can just play all over the instrument. Like, you know, Eddie was always that guy. I had Eddie's signature guitar strings. I always dreamed of having the picks that looked like his guitar, where he would have like a red guitar with like white tape on it. I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. A lot of the tributes yesterday on Instagram to Eddie had that white and red, I don't even know what you call it, design. There are only a few musicians I've ever, I would say, worshipped to the point where I would have a poster of them on my wall. Eddie Van Halen was kind of it. Wynton Marsalis, I think, was in the same boat as far as trumpet goes, but I didn't know a Wynton Marsalis poster. The tour we saw in 1991, the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, I remember was such a big deal at the time. They had like 5 music videos, like 5 hit singles from that record. I remember when the guitar magazine showed up at my house, I used to love getting guitar magazines in the mail because they would have 4 or 5 transcriptions in them. That was huge for me. Pound Cake, which was the lead-off single, was in the guitar magazine. And they'd always list the 5 songs at the top, but Pound Cake was like triple the font because it was such a big deal and everybody's gonna want to learn it. I love the Sammy Hagar, Van Hagar records. Mid-90s, yeah, I stopped listening to them. I think the last song I'm even cognizant of like paying attention to was like, they had a song in the movie Twister. That's a Bill Paxton movie. I remember that they did Van Halen 3 with Gary Cherone from Extreme. Eddie had huge substance abuse problems at some point. I remember that David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar did a Best of Both Worlds tour where the two of them toured together. And then eventually Van Halen kind of reunited with David Lee Roth. And that's the kind of the tours we've seen the past 10 years or so. Because they kicked Michael Anthony out of the band on bass, Eddie's son, Wolf, was playing bass with Van Halen. They had a very tight relationship, and seeing them interact on Instagram was always actually very sweet. So it was Wolf that actually announced his father's death. Was Van Halen relevant in my life the past even 20 years? No, absolutely not. But there's very few initial influences that become like the bedrock for like what you know about a thing. Eddie Van Halen was that guy for a lot of people, to where you're like, how can anybody ever do this? I just wanted to do a short tribute and also play, I think, is one of the sweeter things he's written, which was 316. It was kind of an acoustic tune or interlude on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. I have that book down here. The rest of my Van Halen books that would fit up here are behind me here in tribute. End of an era, man. You know, I probably would have seen them if they played Madison Square Garden or Giant Stadium or something, but who knows what's going to happen with that music now. You can't replace Eddie. So, for all intents and purposes, it's done. So, rest in peace, Eddie. Thank you for what you gave me and everybody else. Thank you, Eddie.